listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We are broadcasting live from Concordia Seminary in St. Louis at the first Faith and Film Festival.
It's pretty cool.
It is
I
pretty
like
cool.
sitting in this room, seeing all these people, and like meeting people we haven't seen in a while, too.
We're not
It's
actually
really
in the
fun.
room where they're showing the films, though, because that would be distracting.
That would be very distracting.
That would be like, that was a series, wasn't there, like that, where people sat and talked in front of the film?
Yeah, people don't like those people.
They don't. People sitting around talking. We're excited to share about the Faith and Film Festival at Concordia Seminary, and it's a good day. It's a little chilly here in St. Louis, but
Very slushy.
Yeah.
It is a slushy and foggy day. You know, I took a picture of the tower that's here on campus, our tower, and you can't actually see it because it's so foggy. It's like, where'd our tower go?
Well, we are grateful to be here as the guest of continuing education at Concordia Seminary. Looking forward to sharing with you about that and talking with some of the faculty here at Concordia Seminary in just a moment. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. You can find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us at the broadcasting booth at the Faith and Film Festival at Concordia Seminary, St. Louis, Professor David Lewis. As assistant professor of exegetical theology here at Concordia Seminary and director of certification for ministerial formation, and a regular guest on KFUO Sharper Iron from time to time. Professor Lewis, thanks for being with us.
That's great to be with you. Thanks for being here.
It's a lot of fun to check out a film festival. I think this is our first film festival for the Coffee Hour, isn't
I believe so.
And this is the first film festival for Concordia Seminary, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the idea behind a film festival at the seminary.
Well, one of the things I've done here as a faculty member is I host what we call Concordia Movie Night, where throughout the year we'll meet with students, watch a film. I've got a particular interest in Christ figure films, which would be a secular movie where there's a character who is depicted as a Christ figure. He reminds us of Jesus, and so you have movies borrowing our story to tell theirs, which then I say is then a means for us to engage the world by taking their stories that borrow from our stories and then using that as you might say, a vehicle to tell the gospel. You know, so if I see somebody and they say, have you watched Guardians of the Galaxy? I'll right away say, yeah, I have. You know, it's a Christ figure film. And this is a person, if I were to come and say, can I tell you about Jesus, they would shut me down. But as soon as I say that, they look at me and say, really? And then now we start having a conversation where I get to tell this person, Groot incorporates his friends into himself the way we're incorporated into Christ. And he sacrifices himself to give life to his friends and then resurrects. And then that's what Jesus did. And then suddenly I'm telling the gospel. And so this is a regular thing we've done. Former student, now Pastor Jacob Wamfler, who serves in the Kansas City area, contacted me this last June. We got together for coffee, and he asked, what if we were to do a film festival for the public? And I said, yeah, let's go for it. And he and Heather Coate Davis got together, and they planned this. We got to give a lot of praise to Erika Bennett, the director of continuing education, and the staff here. Somehow we got it together. We weren't sure how it was going to come off, but we have, I think, about 75 people registered.
Wow.
And the movie we showed last night, they showed The Writer, which I've never seen before, and it generated about an hour of discussion. And basically, we had to shut down the discussion because it was 10 o'clock. And I think people were still wanting to talk about the movie and the various themes and issues related to faith and vocation and the Christian life, value of life. All of this came out of that film, and so it sort of is good or better than I imagined that it would be.
That's awesome. What makes film a unique medium for us to talk about and to dig into all of the themes as opposed to other types of media that we consume?
Well, I would say one thing is, especially our culture is a movie culture. In other words, you're going to have more people go to the theater to watch a Marvel movie or whatever other movie they want than to go to the Museum of Art, for good or bad. More people are watching films than going to the opera. And so it's very much a part of American popular culture is film. And which is why I love film personally. I'll just admit I'd much rather go to the movies than to see an opera, right? And I mean, maybe I should.
Fair.
Yeah, it's fair. So
that's why you're doing this.
That's why I'm doing this. But the idea is, for me then, is if this is a part of our popular culture, we as the church ought to be ready to engage in this medium. And you have to think film is a very powerful way of delivering a message. Because you're sort of there as a captive audience for 1.5 to 2 to 3 hours. You have no time to process what you're seeing until it's over. And if you wanted to sort of preach to somebody, present a message to somebody, film is a very powerful way to do it. On the other hand, art, if you go look at art, it's separate from you. You can turn away from it. You're not forced to stare at it for 2.5 hours, right? And you have time to pull away and process. But film can be very powerful. It's a very powerful medium to present a message. And therefore, I think we ought to be aware when we watch movies that there are messages being presented,
Right.
There's theology being presented,
Absolutely.
Whether it's good theology or bad theology.
Yeah, whether it's good, that's what I mean. And,
right.
I think one of our systematics department, they say everybody's a theologian, so all the people sitting in the pews, all the people who don't go to church or maybe atheists all have a theology. And so I think you're going to find theology in just about every film.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that being a movie culture, we're a movie culture or a film culture. Something I've noticed, even in myself, in terms of how I watch a movie in the theater versus how I watch a movie at home. Now that we have digital and streaming,
yes.
and movies are so accessible. Thinking back before Sarah was even born,
right.
In the days where
in the dark ages,
dark ages, before we had,
I was there with you, so yeah.
Before we could watch movies at home, really.
Right.
I mean, I grew up in the dawn of cable TV, and we had that for a little while, and you could watch movies at home. That being able to watch box office movies at home, that was a big thing. Now it's nothing. It's
right.
no big deal. Anybody can watch a movie at home because there are so many different platforms, digital platforms, DVD, everything, Blu-ray. You can get them from the library for free. I mean, anybody can watch a movie at home at any time on demand, whatever movie they want, basically. But we're also, not only do we have, if we're watching a movie at home, not only do we have that screen on, but we also have other screens
yes.
on too.
Yes.
So the difference between, you see where I'm going there?
Yes.
When you watch a film at a film festival or in a theater, in a cinema, there's something different about that experience.
Yes, there is. And so when movies originally were, began to be shown, one of the critiques about film was it can't be a true art form, because for something to be true art, it has to be objective, and you have to have the ability to separate yourself from it and see it as an objective other piece. While film, you're in a darkened theater, it comes at you. It seems real. That's one of the powers of film. So even if it's Star Wars, it seems real while you're watching it, and you don't have that opportunity to stop and objectively critique what you're seeing. Very rarely do people walk out of a movie even if they don't like it, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes people will do that. And so there is a certain power we now have with DVD and with live streaming a movie as we hit the pause and make that microwave popcorn or mm-hmm. get the drink or and so you can actually stop and evaluate a film, which I've never actually done when I present films. Theoretically I could, mm-hmm. but that's just not the way the film is meant to be experienced. And so I'm one of those old-fashioned people who gets annoyed when we're watching a movie and one of my kids wants to pause so they can go to the bathroom. I said, no, that's in the movie. If you're at the theater, you miss that portion of the movie. Sorry, and then my kids will be watching the movie with their cell phones out, texting or doing other things. You have multiple screens, which I think actually diminishes the power of film in a way. But I think films are meant to be experienced in a single viewing the way intended, and for better or for worse.
It's funny we're talking about that because we're literally doing that right now. We're rewatching Lord of the Rings
right.
because I got the audiobooks and now I'm listening to them, so I wanted to watch the movies again. And not the whole time, but I'm like Googling and searching all the characters and,
right.
and where these places are and looking at the map, and like it's a more immersive experience when we're like talking about what's happening. But that is the way that my husband and I consume films now because we can.
And you see that feature on Amazon Prime where
yes.
you can hit the side button and see who the actors are and
mm-hmm.
their biographies while watching the film.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy who never does that. And whenever I accidentally hit that button, I get frustrated. And now the Lord of the Rings films, I would argue are Christ figure films. Mm-hmm. Who would you say are the Christ figures in those films?
Well,
I think there's multiple. Okay, Gandalf.
Probably Aragorn.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's been decades since.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Sorry.
I think definitely Aragon is the messianic figure who's
mm-hmm.
returning.
Yeah.
Return of the King. But then Gandalf, I think, is the strongest one. I think in the films.
Yeah.
Because he actually dies, rises again, and then there's kind of a glorious second coming moment in Two Towers when he saves them at Helm's Deep. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, you know, there's a lot of people like Lord of the Rings, don't know that Tolkien was a Christian, don't know if there's that there might be Christian themes in the books or in the films. I see somebody who we're talking about Lord of the Rings, and I say, you know, those are Christ figure films, and then suddenly we're having a conversation. That's one reason I like movies, is they become a vehicle to have this conversation.
Sure.
With people.
Yeah. How does our Lutheran worldview or Christian worldview affect how we consume these films as opposed to the way other people would?
I would hope that we have our mind is ready to critique what we're getting. That we're not going to be suckered in. So let's say if a film is giving a life that is very pro-choice, we're the ones who would, even while experiencing the film, would stop. Even if we can't hit the pause in the theater, we're going to stop and say this is not right. Or you know, if there's like an atheistic theme that comes out, or if there might be positive messages that might be there too. I mean, there's going to be positive, you know, in other words, positive messages about ethics or love your neighbor that we would actually appreciate. I don't know if a lot of us are really trained to do that, which is another reason why I like to do these things, is to get people to stop and start thinking about this. You know, don't just be a sucker and take it all in. You know.
And by stop, he doesn't mean stop the film.
Right? Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah.
He's a purist.
In other words, you can't. In other words, I'm the guy. I'm not going to say stop it. We need to evaluate this. In my mind, I said, hey, that's not cool. Right? That's not cool. And then the movie continues, but I'm thinking, okay, that's not cool. Right? Now I'm suddenly suspicious. What other things is this director going to try to get me to believe, believe and confess? You know. And so I wonder sometimes if Christians might, if some of these messages might come under their radar if they're not aware. See, a lot of people say, it's just entertainment. Don't take it so serious, Prof. Lewis. And I'd say no. Every film has a message. It could be good guys win, bad guys lose. So there's a message in every film. What is that message?
There's no true thing. It's just pure entertainment when it comes, because as you mentioned earlier, it's art. Art may include entertainment, but there's also very much so a message in art, which so much more to talk about.
I know. Just getting started.
I would just say be prepared when you watch a film to embrace what's good. There's going to be a lot that's true, good, beautiful, and whether the makers are Christian or not, but then be ready you should be ready to critique those other messages. And then I would say always have an eye ready to, if there's something in this movie that might help me talk about the gospel with my neighbor, with my friends, hey, there's your in,
Sure. Yeah.
Well, we don't want to keep you from the festival too long. I know that there's a presenter speaking, Professor David Lewis, Assistant Professor of Exegetical Theology here at Concordia Seminary. Thank you so much for joining us on the Coffee Hour this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for being here on campus today.
Letting us crash your film festival.
With radio.
Coming up in just a little bit, we'll get to speak with one of the participants observing film and enjoying the film festival here at Concordia Seminary. You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Friday on Issues, Etc., we'll begin a series with Dr. Gene Edward Veith on a Lutheran response to post-Christian culture. We'll discuss word faith teaching, Rhema versus Logos with Chris Roseborough, and we'll play Issues, Etc. Soundbite of the Week.
Issues, Etc., live weekday afternoons from 3 to 5 on KFUO.
I'm Pastor A.J. Espinosa, host of Thy Strong Word, taking your questions as we go through the entire Bible, chapter by chapter. Let's read together with guest pastors from around the country and the church around the world, taking chapters and verses together in context, every passage fitting together in the Lord Jesus, because He is the Word of God. Let's read together.
Thy Strong Word, weekday mornings at 11 on Worldwide KFUO. Underwritten by Lutheran Heritage Foundation, lhfmissions.org.
The Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, on behalf of Concordia Plan Services, Lutheran Housing Support Corporation, Concordia University System, Lutheran Church Extension Fund, the LCMS Foundation, and Corporate Synod, daily reaches out to our members and partners, working together to support our local, global, and international ministries, church workers, and LCMS initiatives at large to carry the mission forward and to serve each other in love. Opportunities to serve, lcms.org/careers.
Far north of the Alps, in the Jura Mountains, a boy and his grandfather are trapped in their chalet. A fierce snowstorm has cut off all paths of rescue, and that's just the beginning.
Grandfather, move!
Get behind me! When doubt, danger, and death surround you, will your faith survive, or will it be buried in the snow? Based on a true story, on the next Lamplighter Theater.
Saturday mornings at 11 on Worldwide KFUO.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We are broadcasting live from the Faith and Film Festival at Concordia Seminary in St. Louis. It's a lot of fun.
It's an exciting day here.
It is.
Lots of people.
Now, we're kind of hanging out outside the main auditorium right now. There's a speaker presenting, and we don't want to interrupt that, so we don't want to be rude and interrupt that.
They wouldn't like us if we did that.
We're privileged to have with us the Reverend Dr. Michael Ziegler, speaker of the Lutheran Hour. Dr. Ziegler, thanks so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour this morning.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Sarah. My pleasure to be here.
Checking out the Faith and Film Festival.
Yeah.
Are you a connoisseur of film?
I wouldn't say that. I enjoy films, so I'm learning more. Yeah.
So today will be your first opportunity to check out some of the film.
Right. I wasn't able to get here yesterday evening, so here this morning, and you guys grabbed me, so here I am.
Thank you. Thanks. So have you picked out what films you'll get to view today? Because I know there are options.
Right. So I get to serve as a moderator of one of the select films for the breakout session, and then I plan to come and be a part of the large group film later tonight. Bring my wife. We're going to make it a date night. Yeah.
Look at
that.
that.
Kind of a nerdy date night.
Turning work into
with a panel afterwards.
Nerdy date nights are great.
Yes.
I'm on board with that.
So what breakout session will you be moderating today?
I get to discuss and be a part of the discussion on a film called Leave No Trace. And they picked me, Jacob Wamfler, pastor from Kansas City. He and I are going to be moderating this because we both have some background in the military. Mm-hmm. And it's a film about a father and a daughter, their relationship as the father struggles with post-traumatic stress that's left, a lot of it's left unsaid, but you can see it in the way he interacts with his daughter and other people in the world at large. Is there's some sort of heavy burden he's trying to process, and so the film is really about their relationship. Mm-hmm. Powerful film.
Mm-hmm. Are there things that you are you a film analyzer? Are you someone that, like, because we just had David Lewis on, and he's one that watches through the entire film and then analyzes?
Right. I would not say I'm a film analyzer. I like to be immersed in stories of all kinds, and films are just one type. So I think about them, but I'm certainly not at the caliber of a David Lewis with his depth of knowledge and the amount that he can bring to the discussion.
Sure. Yeah.
But I enjoy being immersed in any story.
Yeah. Are there storylines that you gravitate towards, or specific films or film genres that you especially like for a certain reason?
That's a good question. I'd say I appreciate a film that can help me see the world in a little different way, mm-hmm. and appreciate something maybe that I've overlooked. I enjoy the feel-good films as well, but I think the films that really stick with me are the ones that challenge the way that I see the world, help me empathize with another perspective.
What are you looking forward to in the breakout session that you get to do here in just a little while today? You're not an analyzer of film necessarily, right. But what do you hope to see in that breakout session?
On one level, I'm looking forward to facilitating the conversation about it. That's something I love to do. I host a podcast that kind of a sister podcast with the Lutheran Hour called Speaking of Jesus, and we're just trying to facilitate conversation around something meaningful, in primarily the Word of God. But it's the same kind of thing, is facilitating conversation, helping people speak about what impacted them, what touched them in this film. So I'm looking forward to that on one level. On another level, the specifics of this film, it's a kind of film that leaves you sad at the end.
Yeah.
It's a PG film, so you could watch it with your family. I watched it with my family. At the end of it, my family was giving me a hard time. They were saying, "Dad, I can't believe you made us watch this movie. It was terrible. It made us feel so," they didn't say that, but they just said it was bad. And a couple of days later, I was talking with my son, and again, he was giving me a hard time. He said, "Dad, why'd you, I can't believe you made us watch that movie. You always pick movies like this." And I said, "Titus, did you think it was a bad movie, or did it just make you feel bad?"
Oh.
And he said, "It made me feel bad." And I said, "Well, it's probably because it's a very good movie. It's a powerful movie. You're just not used to movies that end leaving you feeling bad." And that ended up being a really good conversation, because it's the kind of basic storylines of a comedic storyline where everything gets tied together. Things start bad but get good, and then the tragic storyline, things start good but get bad. And that's exactly what Leave No Trace is. It starts good and gets bad. And you see the characters revealed in this tragedy that as their lives are breaking apart. And so we had a good conversation about what do stories do to us. They don't always just leave us feeling good.
Mm-hmm. And they shouldn't either.
Right, because life is more complex than just that. Certainly, being followers of Jesus, knowing the story of everything, ends in resurrection, new creation, the wedding feast of the Lamb, good. There is tragedy along the way that is an important part of our story, that movies like Leave No Trace or other tragedies help us appreciate that in our own stories.
So stories can be very useful, whether it's in film, whether it's in book, or whatever way you're reading or hearing a story. It can be valuable for thinking and developing. Man, words are hard.
I would take it a step further and say not just useful, but we swim in stories like fish swim in the sea. An author I like wrote that, and it's the truth. We are story creatures. Another author I read wrote, "God created human beings because he loves stories." We just experience life in story, and this is why films are we gravitate toward them, but we're immersed in them. And the other thing I think is important is that we tend to talk about the stories that we're immersed in. Mm-hmm. And then the stories that we're immersed in, once we talk about them, we continue to immerse ourselves in them. And I think that's important for Christian witness, is what are the stories that the people in our surroundings, what are they immersing themselves in? And how can we meet them there, but help them see this other story, the story of Jesus. The Bible as the culminating story that culminates in Jesus. How can we let them be immersed in that as well?
Yeah.
The Reverend Dr. Michael Ziegler, speaker of the Lutheran Hour, and also one of the moderators of the breakout sessions here at the Faith and Film Festival at Concordia Seminary. Thank you so much for being our guest.
My pleasure, Andy. Thanks for letting me come and visit.
Absolutely. And also joining us now, Erika Bennett. She is the Director of Continuing Education here at Concordia Seminary. Erika, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to come be a part of the Faith and Film Festival at Concordia Seminary.
Of course, Andy, when you said you guys wanted to come, I was like, of course, yes. Good follow-up from our interview. Was that a couple months ago or last month? So glad you're here. I am extremely tired, but I am running on dopamines. Is that the right word? Or endorphins? Not endorphins, dopamines, right? I think. Anyway, the happy thing that keeps you just energized. So anyway, great group of people. We've got about 70 people here today. Nobody got scared by the weather.
Oh, good.
So that was awesome. These are some diehard film lovers. So that was good. Great kickoff last night with the writer, and today we've got a full lineup. We're going till 10:30 p.m. tonight.
Wow.
Everybody
that is a long day of film.
Everybody will watch 3 films today.
Wow.
And Professor Lewis said that last night you had to cut off the discussion at one point
I
because
did.
there was so much conversation after the film. And it was a film that really wasn't a popular film. It wasn't a film that most people were aware of.
Yeah, most people had not seen it, but it was a great kickoff. And yes, I even joked with them that I had to go in my mom mode and say, okay, it's 10 o'clock. Everybody needs to go to bed. And Pastor Wamfler, one of the co-creators, was like, you can't tell me to go to bed.
You're not my mom.
Right? So we ended it there, and everybody got back here at 8:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And so there's a presenter right now, a keynote speaker,
Yes,
correct?
Phil Holy. He actually created a course on cinema and religion down at Concordia, Texas, when he was on their faculty, and now he is on the faculty at Mary Hardin Baylor down in Texas. But we were just thrilled to have him. And when he got here yesterday and I met him, he's like, it's such an honor to be here. And I'm like, what? The honor is all ours. So that was really cool.
Very good. We have just about a minute left.
Right.
I know that there are films that you said 3 more films that everybody will see. There's some choices in the process as well.
Yes.
It sounds like it's going really well. Hoping to maybe have another Faith and Film Festival down the road.
Good question, Andy. Yes, this is the first inaugural film festival. So the next one is actually already on the calendar for January 28th through the 30th of 2021.
Fantastic.
Very good. But of course, exciting. Like a true film festival, we won't know what the films are until it opens, right?
We will release at least a couple of the big films, and then there'll be teasers on social media, which we did this time as well.
I am kind of excited. I see one in the lineup for today that I wanted to stick around for.
Which one?
Coco. But I've seen
I'm going to see that. The moderator for that is Abby Olchesi from Kansas City. She's a big film person out there. So we're excited.
Very good.
Erika Bennett, Director of Continuing Education at Concordia Seminary St. Louis, the Faith and Film Festival. Thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you for coming.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Thanks to Stephanie back in the studio.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.